Hello, YouTube. I'm the Star Child, and welcome to Tentai Kensoku. I don't know if I should be doing my intro because this is like completely unscripted and it's not what I usually do. Um, I came across something recently. As we leave the Sonic universe for now, um, there is something that kind of came up, and it is people are talking about the Rouge redesign. Um, I don't usually, I never really had anywhere to talk about stuff like this before, but I have thoughts and then I just kind of think about it to myself. But now I have somewhere to actually like throw it out there to the ether if somebody wants to hear it. Um, it is a big topic lately because of her. I think a lot of stuff happened. I'm not deep in the fandom. I just kind of like orbit, I guess. I've been on the internet for a really long time, and I kind of avoid fandoms because a lot of times they're not fun anymore, especially if they're older ones. Uh, I don't know. I have this sixth sense where things just I can tell. I've been around for so long. I can just tell when a fandom stops being fun and starts being toxic. And the Sonic fandom is it's no stranger to controversies and just being known for like some of the worst people on the internet. um, and sometimes there's like really good people, but like I feel like just as a whole, it has that reputation. Um, but sometimes things happen and they just kind of leak out into other places that I'm not particularly like deep into Twitter or whatever, but I see the conversation pop up in other places, and this time it is the Rouge redesign. And this is unscripted, but I do have notes just to make sure that I cover everything that I wanted to talk about. Over the years, just there have been slight changes to a lot of the characters, and Sonic and Rouge probably have the most divisive character changes. A lot of people will, especially with Sonic, they will talk about like how his quills are shorter now, and he's a lighter shade of blue, and he's not as flowy, and there's like the whole muzzle curve thing. And I personally don't have a problem with these conversations because character design, I'm an artist. I need to start posting more of my stuff on YouTube, but I am an artist and character design is like my bread and butter. So this is a conversation that I enjoy having. And I do think it has to do with nostalgia because a lot of these characters, Sonic's been around for 33 or 34 years, and a lot of these characters are from our childhoods, and most of the time it is people who grew up with the characters who are talking about this stuff. So, like I said, there have been many slight redesigns over the years, and it's kind of like that frog in the boiling water type of thing where you're sitting in there and the temperature rises slowly and then suddenly it's boiled and you don't realize it because you were adjusting over time. But looking back, it's like, wow, that really is a lot different than it used to be, right? Over the years, specifically with Rouge, like ever since her inception, they have made design changes to her. It's mostly been her outfit though. Sonic Heroes, her outfit was way different than in her debut game of Sonic Adventure 2. And then of course throughout the years they experimented with like going back to that original outfit but different colors. I think in the Shadows game it was purple and pink for some reason. So they have kind of jumped around on her for a while, but like she kept her core design features. She had that hourglass figure. She did have larger breasts than the other characters and wider hips. This was because she is older. Back when the characters all had ages, Rouge was 18. A lot of people, because of Sonic X, think of her as being older than that, but like they even said that they didn't know how old she was supposed to be when they picked that voice. But Vector, he is only 20, and he's the oldest out of all of them. So this is a cast of teenagers and young adults, and I guess little kids too, if you count Cream, Charmy, and Tails. But anyway, Rouge's design and just character design in general, she is that femme fatale character. Um, and that's really the point of character design. The reason that this is so important, changing those things changes the way that people view a character. Your character design utilizes like visual elements, everything down to their silhouette, a color palette, just the body language and facial expressions that they are drawn in, like poses and everything. You are supposed to be able to look, if you have a good character, you can look at them and people will know like what they're about. And a lot of times, especially with Rouge, it's really interesting because her physical appearance shows a certain thing, and she is very much that. But under the surface, she is a little softer than people, think. She is less selfish than people think. It's not all about her, and that's part of her character development. But I think I put that on here late. Yeah, that's later. Hold on a second. So, like I was saying, you are supposed to be able to look at this character and just tell like who they are, what their role in the story is, like what kind of character they're going to be. The shape of a character is very important. It conveys a lot of like key aspects of their personality. Everything from like the eye color and the shape of the eye. She got those half-lidded, I don't want to say bedroom eyes, but I guess, I don't know if that's what they were going for, but it is kind of like that sly, cheeky type of look she gives, and it says a lot about her. And, like I was saying, the hourglass figure, very, that type of character is very, I guess, notable, especially in a series like Sonic, which Hoshino put in a lot when he designed her, a lot more than you probably think. A lot of people, for some reason, when people talk about this, when people talk about how Rouge was kind of like given a breast reduction, or they slimmed her hips down, or even that they like lightened her skin, a lot of people try to throw in like, oh, you guys are just gooners, like that's not even important, you're just weird because they covered up bat boobs. Like, it's not about that. I mean, for some people it is, but I think most of Rouge's fans are older women or like girls who look up to characters like that. Because for me personally, the cute characters are cute, but I never really aspired to like your Amy's and Creams. I was always into like the Jessica Rabbits, the Rouge the Bats, the Bayonettas even. I'm not cute. I think I'm more pretty than cute. I've never been cute, even as a kid. I've never been like adorable and small and like instilling this need to take care of, like that moe factor. I never had that. So for me, like finding characters that were more my style than my vibe were very important. And like they exude confidence in their bodies and all that type of stuff, which I think was really important growing up with having characters like that. I think it doesn't have the effect on little girls that people think it does. It doesn't usually make people self-conscious. It makes people more confident in themselves because they see this older girl that you can look up to who has that, even if it is a fictional character. But like I was saying, Hoshino, when he designed her, I'm gonna read this quote right here. So he said, "We decided to create a slightly sexy character, something we had never done before, but since she's stylized, it took a lot of trial and error. I had to add and subtract the sexiness. The outfit could not be too eccentric, but not too ordinary either. And as a result, I decided to borrow some of the sexiness of Latin women, such as Jennifer Lopez, who is also famous in Japan, as a hint for the final draft, tan skin and all. The character has the same abilities as Knuckles, but I tried to differentiate her by elegantly integrating her action with mainly kicking techniques." Which is something else about Rouge that I think people overlook a lot, is that she is just as strong as Knuckles, but she kicks instead of punches. And I'll get to them in a second, but he brought up that point of them being stylized, and something I could talk about Sonic Adventure 2. I can't wait till I can make a video on it, because I want to have like a gameplay series that goes along with it. But I something that I noticed, especially going back and playing it as an adult who was more interested in like the behind the scenes and the character development type of stuff and character design, the drawings, Uekawa does a great job, and I still to this day think that he is the best Sonic artist, but they are very stylized by nature. And if you play Sonic Adventure 2, and I can only really speak on Sonic Adventure 2 Battle because that's what I played originally and that's what I grew up with. I think the Steam version is like a weird mixture of both of them. But I noticed that the Sonic Adventure 2 models are more accurate, I think, to what you were supposed to see the character as. That's more, it allowed for a more detailed visual of what they wanted the characters to look like, I think. And like Shadow's a really good example, and this is a whole different conversation, but like we get a little more character development last year with the Year of Shadow and like Dark Beginnings and Shadow Generations. With Maria didn't really know what Shadow was, but we found out that she designed his shoes. And when I say that she didn't really know, like even Gerald says that in his journal. And also, if you play the game, she's like, where did you, even in Japanese, she says, where did you learn to fight? I think in English, she says, where did you learn to fight like that? But I mean, it kind of means the same thing, right? So she didn't really know. That's like, she never really knew exactly what he was for. So I'm thinking with Shadow, his inhibitor rings, I had this theory for a while, but I think the ones on his wrists are the inhibitor rings and the ones on his ankles are just rings that, you know, because Maria designed all that. I think she just made them match the ones on his wrist, because in Sonic Adventure 2, if you look at the model, everything's more detailed. Like I said, you can see like the clasps that are drawn in, you know, the Gerald's journal art picture of Maria designing Shadow's shoes. You can see the clasp on the ankles, but the ones on his wrists are different. They kind of wrap around. It looks like a slab bracelet. I'm not even gonna lie, but they are different. They kind of resemble shackles a little more. So I think there were a lot of things that were implied, and I don't think they really got to elaborate on more, but I think the inhibitor rings were an idea since the beginning. They were not just introduced in Sonic X, but it wasn't really explained well in Sonic Adventure 2. But the design is different and it's more detailed, and they aren't just simple rings. However, it's stylized in the drawings because it would just be easier to draw like that. So that's something that, just going back to Rouge, you can emphasize that hourglass figure is emphasized more. And a lot of people will talk about the jiggle physics. I'm not here for that. You know, I'm straight. I wasn't ever looking at her like that. But it's, aside from that, she does have more of that flow. And going back to the whole character art thing, like character concepts, character design, and again with Sonic, the way that he used to be was very free moving and lots of curved lines and smoothness, and everything flowed together. Like you probably could have drawn Sonic with one stroke, just a freehand, loose wrist type of paintbrush thing. You could probably draw a pretty good picture of him like that back in the day. He's very flowy and free, and captures who he is. Rouge is similar in the way that she was very, like, there are a lot of curved lines and roundness to her that kind of gave you an idea of, you know, the feel of the character. It's really about the feel of a character. Like, you should be able to kind of, like, tangibly, intangibly get a sense of what they represent and who they are. And again, Sonic Adventure 2, Rouge was designed to be Knuckles' rival. And her design is not the opposite of Knuckles, but complementary to his. Both in design and personality. So Knuckles, he's very stoic, he's a loner, he's very direct, he's hot-headed. He is kind of naive. Rouge, on the other hand, personable, calculating, very chill, kind of flippant in a way, and she is smart. Not saying Knuckles is dumb, he's just kind of like, he has no social skills and he doesn't know anything about people. You know, their dynamic was so good, and I really wish that we could keep that I wish we could keep the romance aspect of Sonic, because I think a little touch of that isn't weird. Like, and this is something that I'm going to talk about later, but like, it was like that when we were kids. I don't know why they took that out, but anywho, even their colors are very complementary towards one another. Knuckles, red, yellow, green; Rouge, white, black, pink. These colors not only complement each other, but like each other's colors. Like, you could pair any of those colors together and they match. You know, like red and black, red and white, red and pink, yellow, white, blah blah blah, pink. You know what I mean? Green. You understand what I'm trying to say. Like, all those colors go together. They vibe with each other basically. Both of them also had darker skin, which, like I was saying, Hoshino, he did that on purpose. The darker skin tone was done on purpose, and they have also kind of like taking her curves away. And also, like, I almost forgot to mention this. They pulled her shirt up, so she has less cleavage, and as well as her, bust being smaller. But they also covered her back, which makes absolutely no sense to me, because, like, she's a bat. She has wings coming out of there. Even in Sonic Heroes, a lot of people apparently didn't know this, but, like, her outfit had a wing window. I think most of her outfits have had something that accounts for her wings to be out, because it makes sense. Amy gets to have her back out and she has nothing. There's nothing there, it's just her back. Like, I don't understand. Anyway, like, that just bothers me. I think that's the worst part of the redesign, is that they have her wings clipping through her shirt now, and it just looks bad to me. But anyway, Knuckles and Rouge, they had darker skin. I've seen people talking about that too, bringing their melanin back. And something I was gonna say is they have different body types. Even the guys, and I'm talking about this again, it's on here too. I'll just talk about it now. The girls all had different body types from each other, and the boys had different body types, even though they are not as detailed. You have both Knuckles and Shadow, really, but Knuckles they all have that rubber hose look, so he doesn't really have muscles, but his upper body is like an upside down triangle. He is wider in the shoulders. It is kind of like his chest is puffed to show his strength. Shadow is kind of like that too. He's a little skinnier because he's more of like a runner body, but the way that he stands is very like chest puffed, triangle, upside down triangle thing, wide shoulders. Contrasting to Sonic, who is very round and smooth and less angular. And like I said, that just goes with his like very flowy circular design. And comparing Rouge to the other girls, you have like Amy, Cream, Blaze mostly. Now, again, with the way that they're drawn in their silhouette, you can tell a lot about their character. Amy, she's got that spunky, energetic look. Her colors are complementary to Sonic's. He's blue, she wears red. The shoes, even, like, he has the horizontal buckle thing. Hers have a vertical stripe, You can look at her and tell what kind of character she is. Cream, very small, like round, again, cute, brave, sweet little girl. She has this, like, the little dress with the Mary Jane type of shoes and a little, like, sailor collar. Very innocent. And then there's Blaze. She is a little older than those two, but she's very elegant and stoic and kind of slender, with a lot of purple to emphasize her royalty. And this is because she's like the Sonic of her universe. She's very aerodynamic. And if nowadays, if you put them all side by side, you would not really be able to tell the difference, because Rouge had that, her silhouette was taken from her, and now it became kind of generic, I guess. And like I said, this is not just about sex appeal. Like, I was never attracted to Rouge, but taking away what kind of made her character, not the way she physically looks, but a way that you can look at her and kind of guess what she's about. I don't even know if Rouge was like designed to be sex appeal, and I know that they deliberately wanted to have a character that looked like that, but I don't know if that's what they wanted to instill in people. when they looked at her or when she came onto the screen, because they gave her a lot of depth. She goes through a pretty interesting character arc in Sonic Adventure 2, and I think it's lost on a lot of people for some reason. Rouge was just doing her job, and then she got pulled into all this crazy stuff, and working with Shadow, she kind of bonded with him in a way that they didn't really get along well at first, but I think she saw herself in him, because both of them are they hide things away from people. Shadow doesn't talk about his feelings, but deep down he's a very nice person. He's a good person. And Rouge, she saw through that like glass, probably because she's a spy, and that's kind of her thing, but also because she is very similar. That's how she is. On the surface, she presents herself a certain way, but deep down, she, is a nice person. She's generally a good person. Which, like we see that in the game. She feels bad for him when she confronts him. They don't really start screaming at each other. They kind of insult each other at first, but then it very much switches to a more somber conversation where she, feels bad for him. And by the end of the game, his sacrifice had a deep impact on her that kind of made her change a little bit of the way that she kind of not presented herself, the way that she kind of thought about things, as if somebody could be that selfless, like what would that mean for her? And she does contemplate, in the English version at least, like giving up on the gem thing. And we also have to realize, like, she could have at any moment just taken the Chaos Emeralds and dipped out. But she did decide to stay and help them try to save the world, at least. That was not part of her mission. She was really just there to get paid, but, she took that sideline because that's just who she is. She's very independent, and that's part of her theme song, too. It talks about how she's kind of looking for that thing that really, something that kind of speaks to her heart, I guess, and she's like, she can do it all alone, but like I said, with Shadow, she kind of realized that the selfless thing it did something to her, and I think that's one of the reasons, if not the reason, that they are paired together a lot, is just because like he kind of changed her life in a way just by meeting him, which is a conversation for like a Sonic Adventure 2 video. But yeah, she does have people that she calls friends, and her circle's small and they're kind of misfits, but that's just, she actually cares about Shadow and Omega, and she's not gonna throw everything to the wayside if anybody else needs help too. And that's kind of where I wanted to wrap it up, except there are some things. I talked about the fandom before, and I feel like these conversations are important, but there's an issue in all fandoms, but for some reason, really the Sonic fandom, of toxic positivity. Why? If somebody's having a conversation, I miss forums. They still exist, but people don't really use them anymore. For some reason, over time, like, websites kind of just trickled down into being funneled into like just Twitter for some reason. And people try to say that there's like Animal Crossing Twitter or Mario Twitter or Sonic Twitter, but it's not. Twitter is Twitter, and anybody can come in there. I personally feel like we need to gatekeep a little more. Just because, like, not everybody needs to be involved in the conversation. And I was saying, people have been trying to have this conversation about the character design for a while, and then they get shut down by people who are just like, you guys are just complaining too much, it doesn't actually matter, why do you care about something so small? And my thing is, you acknowledge that it's a small issue, so why was it changed in the first place? Which really brings me to the thing that I've decided that probably in the future I'm going to make a whole video really kind of exploring this. But one of the biggest things, especially when they talk about Rouge being censored, is that, quote unquote, this is a kid series. It's a series for kids. I was 9 years old the first time I saw her, and I never felt weird about it. And I don't remember anyone even mentioning the way she looked, to be completely honest with you. I thought about it. I genuinely don't remember anybody being like, "Ugh, she needs to cover up." Like, no one said that. Nobody said that to me. Even when we were watching Sonic X and she was on screen in front of my grandparents, nobody said anything. So what does that mean? That it's for kids? Because it was always for kids, and I think I said this earlier, but most of the people that are complaining about this are people that grew up on this. We were also kids back then. And the biggest issue that I realized about this, and just in my journey of doing this, exploring these universes, making these videos and this channel, I talked about this in my Don Bluth video, and I praised him for it, but he was somebody who he didn't underestimate children. He was someone who strived to bring forward and create these deeper, darker stories with complex characters and situations. He did not believe in censoring this type of stuff for kids. And The Land Before Time is a big one because people still talk about that. Watching Littlefoot's mom die was a lot of people's introduction to death and the grieving process. She died on screen. And believe it or not, if you like, I'm not gonna keep plugging my videos, but I mentioned it in that video. He fought Steven Spielberg and George Lucas to keep that as dark as it was. His original plan for that movie was a whole lot worse, but they cut it down because they thought people was gonna be running out screaming from the theater. Like, it could have been darker. He's not sadistic. He's not like a monster. It's true. These days, and thinking about it, is a lot of the stuff that we grew up on, if it had a reboot or something, it's been dumbed down. Powerpuff Girls was very episodic. There were some serious things in there sometimes, but it wasn't that bad. But for some reason, it was dumbed down to that reboot version where they were twerking and stuff. Like, I don't even know. Probably gonna talk about that at some point too. Teen Titans Go was another one. I loved Teen Titans when it came out. A lot of people loved Teen Titans when it came out. It had a lot. It was a very well-rounded show. It was very, like, they had their, goofy slapstick slice of life episodes, and they also had their serious, deep conversation, learn a lesson episodes. And, like, PTSD episodes and, like, parental abuse episodes, like, stuff like that. But Teen Titans Go was dumbed down into goofy shenanigans. I can't think. I don't even have TV to be watching. Like, we just have streaming services. But I haven't been around. I think Steven Universe is the last show that I watched that's for kids that had, like, actual deep stories and, like, complex concepts for kids to watch. But even then, it was only, like, what was it, like 11 minutes? That very, like, short attention span, 11 minutes. I don't know. Like, my big question that I thought about while doing this is, why are things censored now for kids when they weren't censored for us when we were kids? I don't really understand why things changed that much. And it's something that I want to explore more, because this goes beyond, like, Sonic characters and changing, like, the way that they're drawn and stuff. This is a thing. I think that kids need more complex stories. I think kids need complex characters that they can look up to. I think kids need something with depth, because this, like, goofy brain rot stuff is not it. I don't know why it ended up like that. I really would like to know, and I'm probably gonna make that video at some point. So this is way longer than I thought it would be. Good lord. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, I guess. And also, like, before you subscribe to me, I don't know if I'm getting subscribers from this. Like, I just made this video to get it off my chest. If you want to subscribe, please watch my other stuff first because I don't usually make stuff like this. So I'm gonna end this here. Um, I'll see you guys in the next video. Another reason I wanted to make this is because my video is not done yet, but it should be in 2 weeks when it's due. So I'll see you guys then. Goodbye.